Hello, and welcome to Hannah Reads Books. I'm Hannah, and I like to read books. So today we are reading Chapter 10, and that's called Our Boss's Secret. In Chapter 9, Rhea and Ellen and Bumblebee and Merlin went back to Arbassa. Remember, Ellen is poisoned and is going to die unless Merlin can go to the other world and meet Dagda and get the elixir. But I also think today we're going to read 2 chapters. Yes. Okay. Chapter 10, Our Boss's Secret. Deep within Arbassa I toiled. I tried everything possible to find the key to the puzzle. Time after time, I trudged up the spiral stairs and down again, searching for the right place to start. I backed away, scanning the walls for some sort of pattern. I came very close, laying my forehead against the cool wood, examining each individual rune in turn, to no avail. Hour after hour, I pored over the mysterious writing on the walls, writing that might somehow guide me to the cure Ellen so desperately needed. Yet while the intricately carved script seemed full of hidden meaning, it left me empty of understanding. Sunset came and went, and the dim light in the stairwell faded away completely. For some time I struggled to use my second sight, even less reliable than usual in the darkness, until finally Rhea brought me an unusual torch. It was a sphere as big as my fist, made of thin but sturdy beeswax. Within it crawled a dozen or more beetles that glowed with a steady amber light. It was enough to illuminate at least a small portion of the script. Grateful though I was for the torch, I accepted it without a word. The same was true for the 2 bowls, one filled with water and one large green nuts, which Bumblebee had brought me some time later. Despite the fact that he tripped on the stairs, spilling half the water on my neck, I hardly noticed him. I was too absorbed in my work, and also my guilt. For all my concentration on the strange runes, I couldn't help keep myself from hearing the recurrent sighs and moans from the woman lying on the floor above me, the woman I had brought to Finkyra. Outside I knew, a pale new moon was rising over Druma Wood, painting Arbassa's boughs with the faintest glow of silver. Now I had 1 month, less 1 day, to find the cure. As difficult, perhaps impossible, as that task would be, I could not even begin it until I deciphered the script, and the script showed no sign of sharing its secret. Warily, I lay my hand against the wood wall. Suddenly I felt a brief spark of warmth from the runes. It barely pricked the palm of my hand before it vanished, yet it left me with the feeling, deep in my bones, that this writing had indeed been carved by the great wizard Tuatha. Could he have known that one day, years later, his own grandson would struggle to read these mysterious words? That the words would offer the only hope of finding the stairway to the other world and the elixir of Dagda? And could Tuatha had guessed that the elixir would be needed to save the life of Ellen, the woman he had once predicted would give birth to a wizard with powers even greater than his own? Some wizard I had turned out to be. When I wasn't bearing a magical instrument, what had my powers wrought? Nothing but misery, to me and those in my wake. I had not only snuffed out my own 2 eyes, I had nearly snuffed out my own mother's life. I shambled down to the bottom of the stairwell, despondently. I leaned close to the wall. Reaching out my hand, I touched the very first rune with the tip of my finger. It looked something like a square sunflower wearing a long, shaggy beard. Slowly, I traced its curves and creases, trying yet again to sense even a glimmer of its meaning. Nothing. I dropped my hand. Perhaps it was a matter of confidence, or belief. I was born to be a wizard, wasn't I? Tuatha himself said so. I am his grandson, his heir. Again I touched the first rune. Again I sensed nothing. Speak to me, rune! I command you! Still nothing. I slammed my fist against the wall. Speak to me, I say! That is my command! Another painful moan echoed down the stairwell. My stomach knotted. I drew a slow, unsteady breath. If not for me, then for her. She will die if I can't find some way to learn your secret. A tear drifted down my cheek. Please, for her, for Ellen, for Mother. A strange tingling pulsed through my finger. I caught a whiff of something, not quite a feeling. Pushing my finger to the rune, I concentrated harder. I thought of Ellen, lying alone on a floor of woven boughs. I thought of her love for me. I thought of my love for her. The wood seemed to grow warmer under my fingertip. Help her, please. She has given me so much. In a flash, I understood. The first rune spoke its meaning directly to my mind in a deep, resonant voice that I had never heard before, yet somehow had always known. These words shall be read with love, or not read at all. Then came the rest. In a flowing, cascading river of words, a river that washed over me and carried me away. The 7 songs of wizardry, one melody in many, may guide ye to the other world, though hope ye have not any. Excitedly now, rune by rune, I read my way up each step of the stairwell. Often I paused, repeating the words to myself before proceeding. When at last I reached the top, the sun's first rays were filtering down the stairwell and trembling over the runes. During the night, the 7 songs had been carved on the walls of my mind, just as they had once been carved on the walls of Arbasa. Okay, that was chapter 10, but like I said, I think we're going to read 2 chapters because it's very short. So I'm going to change this guy to 11 and continue. Okay, 11 is called One Melody and Many. I climbed the last wooden stair and stepped through the curtain of leaves. My mother still lay on the floor, though no longer on the stretcher. Hearing me enter, she stirred beneath a light, silvery blanket, woven from the threads of moths, and tried with effort to raise her head. Rhea sat cross-legged by her side, her face full of worry. Mumblewee, leaning against a far wall, looked glumly my way. I have read the words, I announced without pride. Now I must try to follow them. Can you tell us a little? Whispered Ellen. The pink light of dawn, sifting through the windows, touched the pale skin of her cheeks. How do they begin? Grimly, I knelt by her side. I studied her face, so pained and yet so loving, and I recited. The 7 songs of wizardry, one melody and many, may guide ye to the other world. Though hope ye have not any. Though hope ye have not any, repeated Bumblewee, staring blankly at his hat. Too true, too true, too true. As I glared at him, Rhea reached for a small pine-scented pillow. What does it mean, one melody and many? I'm not sure. I watched her slide the pillow under my mother's head. But it goes on to say that each of the 7 songs is part of what it calls the great and glorious Song of the Stars, so maybe it has something to do with that. It does, my son. Ellen observed me for a moment. What else did the words say? Many things, I sighed, most of which I don't understand, about seedlings and circles and the hidden sources of magic, and something about the only difference between good magic and evil being the intention of the one who wields it. I took her hand. Then I came to the 7 songs themselves. They begin with a warning. Divine the truth within each song before ye may proceed, for truths like trees for ages grow, yet each begins a seed. I paused, remembering that even the mighty Arbasa, in whose arms we now sat, began as a mere seed. Still, that gave me scant encouragement when I remembered the words that followed. Pursue the 7 songs in turn. The parts beget the whole, but never move until ye find each song's essential soul. Each song's essential soul, repeated Rhea. What do you think that could mean? I touched the woven boughs of the floor. I have no idea at all. My mother squeezed my hand weakly. Tell us the songs themselves. Still pondering Rhea's question, I recited. The lesson changing be the first, a treeling knows it well. The power binding be the next, as lake of face can tell. The skill protecting be the third, like dwarves who tunnel deep. The art of naming be the fourth, a secret slantos keep. The power of leaping be the fifth, in Varigal beware. Eliminating be the 6th, a sleeping dragon's lair. The gift of seeing be the best, forgotten island's spell, and now ye may attempt to find the otherworldly well. But lo, do not attempt the well until the songs are done, for danger stalk your every step, with Balor's eyes but one. Silence fell over the room. Even Bumblewee's bells did not stir. At last I spoke in a hushed voice. I don't know how I can possibly do all the things the songs require and return here before I die. Ellen lifted her hand to my cheek. Is there any way I could persuade you not to go, my son? Her arm fell back to the floor. At least then we'd be together at the last. No! I'm the one who did this to you. I must try to find the cure, even if the chances are 1 in a million. Her face, already pale, grew still whiter. Even if it means your own death on top of mine. Rhea touched my shoulder in sympathy. Suddenly, a whoosh of wings stirred in my memory, and I thought of someone else I had lost, the brave hawk who had died in the fight for the shrouded castle. We had named him Trouble, and no name could have been more fitting. Yet his actions rang even louder than his angry screeches in my ear. I wondered whether his spirit still lived in the other world, and whether, if I failed in this quest, I might join him there, along with my mother. Ellen stiffened, clenching her fists as another spasm of pain coursed through her body. Rhea reached for a bowl of yellow potion that smelled as rich as beef broth. Carefully, she helped my mother drink a few swallows, spilling a little on the floor. Then, raising the bowl, Rhea made a loud, chattering noise with her tongue. From on top of the cabinet, a squirrel with huge brown eyes suddenly bounced to the floor and lopped to her side. It placed one paw on her thigh, waving its bushy tail. Almost before Rhea had chatted another command, the squirrel took the bowl from her hands. With a high-pitched chatter in reply, it bounded off, carrying the bowl in its teeth. That's Ixtama, she explained to my mother. I found him once in a glade near here, squealing from a broken leg. I set it for him, and since then he visits often, helping however he can. I asked him to refill the bowl for you, after he chopped some more chamomile. Despite her condition, my mother seemed on the verge of laughing. You are an amazing girl, you are. Then her face tightened. The shadows of leaves quivered on her golden hair. I only wish I had more time to know you. You will, declared Rhea, after we return with the cure. We? I looked at her in amazement. Who said you were coming? I did, she replied calmly. She folded her arms across her chest. And there's nothing you can do to change my mind. No, Rhea, you could die. Nevertheless, I'm coming. The floors and walls of the cottage creaked as our bossa swayed from side to side. I could not be sure whether a sudden wind outside had tossed its branches, but I suspected that the wind had sprung from within. Why ever do you want to come? I demanded. Rhea looked at me curiously. You get lost so easily. Stop that, will you? What about my mother? Someone needs to... Ixtama will do it. We've already arranged everything. I bit my lip, turning to Ellen. I asked in exasperation, Are all girls this stubborn? No, just the ones with strong instincts. Her eyes moved to Rhea. You remind me of me, child. Rhea blushed. And you remind me of... Her voice trailed off. I'll tell you when we get back. Bumblebee cleared his throat. I shall stay. I jumped. What? I said I'll stay, to keep her company, during the excruciating agony of her death. It's going to be miserable. Absolutely miserable. That I know for certain. But perhaps I can lighten her load a bit. I'll dust off my most cheery melodies, my most humorous tales. Just the thing for someone gripped by the horror of death. You'll do no such thing. I struck the wooden floor with my fist. You're coming with us. Bumblebee's dark eyes widened. You want me to come? No, but you're coming anyway. Merlin, no! Rhea waved her leaf-draped arms. Please don't let him come. I shook my head gravely. It's not that I want him with us. I want him away from her. What he calls humor could kill her in a week instead of a month. Ellen reached a trembling hand toward me and lightly brushed my scarred cheek. If you must go, I want you to hear what I have to say. She locked her sapphire eyes on me so that I could almost feel her gaze penetrating my skin. Most important, I want you to know that even if I should die before you return, it was worth it all just for me to see you again. I turned away. And something else, my son. I have learned precious little in my time, but this I know. All of us, including me, have within ourselves both the wickedness of a serpent and the gentleness of a dove. I pushed the hair off my brow. I have a serpent, that's for certain, but I'll never believe you do. Never. She sighed heavily, her eyes roaming the interwoven branches that framed the room. Let me say it in another way. You often enjoyed my tales of the ancient Greeks. Do you remember the one about the girl named Psyche? Puzzled, I gave a nod. Once more, her blue eyes seemed to search me. Well, the Greek word psyche has two different meanings. Sometimes it means butterfly, and other times it means soul. I don't understand. The butterfly is the master of transformation, you see. You can change from a mere worm into the most beautiful creature of all. And the soul, my son, can do the same. I swallowed. I'm sorry, Mother. Don't be sorry, my son. I love you. I love all of you. Bending low, I kissed her hot brow. She gave me a faltering smile, then swung her head toward Rhea. And for you, child, I have this. From the pocket of her deep blue robe, she pulled an amulet of twigs bound together with a red thread. An amulet of oak, ash, and thorn. Take it. You see how the buds are swelling with new life? They are ready to blossom, as are you. Keep it with you, for courage, and to remind you to trust your instincts. Listen to them, for they really are the voice of nature, mother of us all. Rhea's eyes glistened as she took the gift and deftly fixed it to her shirt of woven vines. I will listen, I promise. You already do, I think. It's true, I declared. She has even been known to remind other people to trust in the berries. Rhea blushed, even as she fingered the amulet of oak, ash, and thorn. Of course, muttered Bumblebee. You have nothing for me. I scowled at him. Why should she? Oh, but I do, said Ellen weakly. I have a wish. A wish? The lanky figure came closer and knelt upon the floor of branches. For me? I wish that one day you will make someone laugh. Bumblebee bowed his head. Thank you, my lady. Merlin, whispered my mother, perhaps your 7 songs are like the 7 labors of Hercules. Do you remember them? They were thought to be impossible, yet he did them all and survived. Although I nodded, I felt no better. For Hercules' most difficult labor was to carry the weight of the entire world on his shoulders for a time, and the weight I bore now seemed no less than that. Okay, well, that was the end of part 2. So that's a good place to end. Chapter 12 will start tomorrow, and it is called Tuatha. These books kind of remind me of like an epic D&D campaign with like riddles and quests and all that, but maybe that's just like typical fantasy. But we shall continue it tomorrow. Have a good night.